Was thinking about you last week, holding you up. Same with Hans and Lisa. They're not with us today. Don't know. They just sent me a message saying they couldn't make it. And that's all good. Everyone has free will. Do what you need to do, guys. All right. So today we are going to talk about identifying evil, demonic, and negative energies. And I'm going to break this down so we talk, we go, yeah, we're aware of, oh yeah, that didn't feel right, all that sort of thing. So I want to break it down so that you can start to identifying things quicker and also how to deal with it. And I had someone send me an email. I won't name them just for confidentiality, but I am going to share an email that was sent to me with a question, and it was exactly on this topic. And Jenny was just sharing something with me, and I'm going, Jenny, I'm talking about that today, and I had this prepared last week. So we're writing what God wants us to talk about today, and you're all here to hear and learn from it. So here we go. Identifying evil, demonic, and negative energies, and the different ways that they can have an effect, and also how they're working and why they're operating as well. So it's very interesting because lots of people don't feel, don't think that energies can be attached to houses or items and things like that. And we have touched on that before, but I really want to break it down so you can identify what is actually going on. Because sometimes you go, what the heck? Like, where did that come from? Or why? Our house is not normally like this. And all of a sudden it's chaotic. So we have, obviously, there's different entry points and access. And there's a couple of different ways that they have access. Now, we've talked about this quite a bit too. It can be an agreement, it can be an assignment, or it can be a trauma-based incident. A lot of people forget about sometimes things can be assigned to us. And we want to start identifying these a lot quicker so that we nip it in the butt so that it doesn't play a role in affecting your life, right, or your family's lives. So occult objects, sometimes we buy things from overseas and we bring them home and, they have energies and they have spirits attached to them, and you bring them into your house where you've given them a legal right to come into your house and they will operate. That's what they've been assigned to do. And a lot of people dismiss this. They go, oh yeah, but it's just a vase, we need to look at who's making what or where you're picking it up from, particularly, from other countries. They are much, much more aware of the spirit realms, and they have been using witchcraft or, spiritual voodoo and all that sort of thing a lot longer than Westerners have in a sense. So this is where we've got to start. We've got to be sharper in our discernment. And it's when we can nip it in the butt, it just saves a whole lot of heartache, guys. So the other thing is, psychics, shamans, witch doctors, which I just touched on. But I really want to touch on quickly about psychics. Now, the last 6 years has been a real increase of more and more people becoming, having spiritual conversations, and, they're professing to be spiritual, and you've got to discern where they're really coming from. And it's interesting, there's a lot of stuff coming out about different religions at the moment, and that, what's really been going on and who's who in the zoo. And, you know, some of the things that have been covered up, just like the Catholic Church, covered up, you know, to protect their corporation. So with psychics, I want to break that down, because a lot of people are going to get their fortunes told, or, you know, they want to know what their future is. And it's really interesting that we really do have a curiosity for, you know, what's my future? And you know, the tarot cards and all that, the Ouija boards, all that sort of thing, guys. And we're going to touch on that too. If you've dabbled with anything like that, it needs to be broken. We need to cut that off your life, because it has an effect. So let me break it down when it comes to how the psychic aspect works. A lot of people can read other people's energies, and that's what's happening a lot more now. People are reading other people's energies, as that awareness has been released over the earth. So more and more people are doing it, a lot more conversations about it. But if you pay to go and see a psychic or a shaman, really you need to discern what's flowing through them. And some people can present really nicely and you go, oh, yeah, okay. But it's not always the case, guys. So, you know, if your gut, that instant gut instinct is, I don't know about this, please listen to that. So what happens with psychics is they can read your past, but they can never tell you your future. So what they do is they read your past, they can read your present, and then they'll step into proclaiming your future, and you will agree with it. Now, the minute you make that agreement, you have then opened yourself for what they have deemed to be your future to come to pass. And I'm going to read an example here. Went to see a fortune teller to know their future. Now, the 7-year-old shared with the mum that everything the fortune teller told them had come true, including her grandmother's getting ill, who is now in hospital with a strange heart condition that they can't explain. Guys, that is a prime example of an entity riding on those words of the future, the fortune teller. Because how do they get recognition, the fortune tellers or the psychics? It has to happen for them to have validity. So then, you know, people go, oh my gosh, I went to this fortune teller and she told me this and this was going to happen, and it happened. She's really good, so you need to go and see her too. This is how they start to work in society. And we need to be aware of this. People think it's harmless, but it is not harmless. The same as there are people now walking around going, you know, look, I'm a white witch. And I'm just going, the two words don't even go together. Or I'm a good witch. The two words do not go together. It's an oxymoron. They don't go together. So, and sometimes people kind of want to identify themselves as something to kind of be able to go, well, this is what I do, or this is who I am. And this is where, why are we putting ourselves in a box? Why do we have to label ourselves? I don't put myself out as, oh, you know, I'm a prophet or I'm an oracle, or guys, I just get insight. Because that's how God designed us. So that was thank you for that person that sent that email in. That was really interesting. And I just sent back to her how to deal with these things that were happening. And we're going to touch on that today. So again, like I said, that conversation with that fortune teller became an agreement. The father and the new wife then agreed with it. So then it gives it validity and it starts to manifest in your life. It starts to have fruit in your life. So a couple other things here, we have witchcraft that love to send assignments. Now, some of the things that I teach you guys, they use that, but on the other side, because there's spiritual principles, there's spiritual laws that we're talking about, and they use it too. But they use it to bring, steal, kill, and destroy. We want to use it to bring life and truth. So this is the spiritual battle that we are in. And we have all the power to counteract the things that the negative does. So I want to touch on two, like demons taking up residence, particularly house demons, which are really interesting. I've done a lot of home clearings. It's very interesting sometimes where you find where they're located. They don't always are in the whole house. They can be areas of the house. And if that's the case, you've got to find out why. Why is it there? How come it's operating and what's it attached to? So, and they can, own territories in the house. Sometimes it can be a bedroom, sometimes it's the basement, a specific location. Sometimes it can be in a certain area in the room. It can be a certain chair or a corner. And these are some of the things that you need to identify. And it will operate from there to bring its destruction, its influence into the house. Often, kids can open themselves up and it will be in their bedroom. So every time the child goes into that bedroom, that's the influence that they're coming under. And then parents go, oh my gosh, my teenager's out of control and all that sort of thing. And we blame it on, it's, the age that they're going through, or they're going through puberty. Now, that's another agreement. When parents agree that their kids are going through they're teenagers and they're, erratic and they're misbehaving and they're rebellious, when they agree with that, it gives it a place to actually operate. And negative energies will come through. Now, I remember so many people, wait till your daughter's a teenager. I never went through any issues with my daughter. None whatsoever, because I did not accept that to be the truth. We have a great relationship. We've always had a great relationship. Did it take work? Yes. Did it take spiritual discernment to help protect the relationship? Absolutely. But I never agreed with the fact that she was going to be a difficult teenager. And I guarded our relationship against that. So this is another thing that the terrible twos, well, she never went through the terrible twos. She never went through any of the stages that, the world predicts you to go through as parents. But because if there's a misbehavior, straight away, it's the terrible twos. I'm going, no, it's not. There's something else going on. So these are the things that, and I feel that a lot of young parents need to be taught this, because they're accepting everything that's presented on the big screen by psychologists and all that sort of thing. It doesn't have to be like that. That's one of the things, guys, with what I share with you today, is If your life is not alignment with peace and joy and, life, where life is great, then something is amiss that needs to be dealt with. So trauma attachments are often fear-based. So, and negativity and entities love fear. That's the currency of the negative realm. That's the currency of the devil, if, however you want to present it. They're all the same anyway. But, it's all fear-based. And what you fear comes upon you. That is a spiritual law. That's how the energy and the frequency operate. So signs of a negative, when negativity is present. So I'll just touch on this a little bit. Your house is normally peaceful, then all of a sudden there's unexplained arguments, misunderstanding. Everything gets, everything becomes, wow, everyone's all heated and living on the edge, and everything's misunderstood. You say, oh, look, can you put the bin out? And then it's like, well, tell me to put the bin out, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? Okay, so this is where often you will find that there is an entity or a negative energy that's operating to bring destruction, particularly if you are a house that's normally at peace, where, life is just, everyone's going the same way, everyone's, doing their thing, and there's real harmony and there's joy in the family. Negativity wants to come in and destroy it. Especially if you stand for something as a family. Now, if you're a person that, really goes into dealing with things in the atmosphere, like really aware of what's going on, and then, the spirit's asking you to counteract certain things, you need to be really vigilant here. Because when you do nothing, the enemy doesn't attack you. But if you're doing something, he will certainly come and try and attack you. And you have to be very vigilant and aware of that. So again, if your house is normally peaceful and calm and, everything's good, and then all of a sudden, guess what comes in there? What do you think causes all this unexplained argument and miscommunication? It's actually the influence of a spirit of strife. Okay, that's present. So that's what you need to deal with. Now, it's really easy. You just have to tell it to go. If there's break any agreement with it. And often with this particular spirit, how it really loves to work is it was like, it comes with accusations. It comes with judgment and criticism. So it will be like, well, you didn't do this for me. Or, it's like you're, it's that gossip. It's that, well, mum didn't do that for you when you asked her to. So it becomes that accusation, and it's it'll come between the kids, or it'll become between the father and one of the children. And then they start to, oh, mum's never here for you. Mum doesn't do this for you. And vice versa. It can be with the mother, where it's, well, dad doesn't really love you, does he? He didn't bring you flowers. Look at the neighbor. They brought flowers for their wife. This is all a spirit of strife, because it comes with accusation. It comes with criticism, and it comes with judgment. Now, if you are in a conversation with a person and that's what's coming out of their mouth, in other words, there's gossip, it's wanting to cause division, you are dealing with a spirit of strife. And you can take control of that. You can shut that thing down in a second. Now, when I sit with people and they start, now, guys, doesn't matter what their background is as far as their spiritual belief or their religion. Okay, doesn't matter. If they are operating with that particular spirit, you can shut it down. If you're sitting around having coffee or dinner and someone starts up, shut it down. You don't have to tell them, oh, no, you can't, don't you speak like that. Because the minute you do that, you are now engaging with them to have an argument, which is what the spirit of strife wants you to do. We do far more in the spirit realm than we do in the physical. And that's where you shut it down. Good enough. And don't receive it. If the accusations come at you, don't receive it. Particularly when we're coming through divorce situations. Oh my goodness. Now, I am divorced, and the thing that I did when we went our separate ways was I made sure I never pulled down my children's father. I was like, I'm not entering into that, because they will learn what they need to learn in their own time. I always honored him. We always stayed very mutual. We stayed like on good terms, in the sense of when it came to the kids. And I didn't want to go through a divorce. I'm not that type of person, but that's what happened. And that's where it's like, no, I'm still going to honor, because at the end of the day, that person, that man or female, is the children's parent. And then it doesn't allow for strife to come in, for the kids to become the pawns in the middle of this, I'm right, he's wrong. And if that's escalating in someone's life, bind the spirit of strife, because it's very destructive and it's not good for the kids. It's detrimental to the kids, and that's exactly what evil negativity wants to see happen. Okay. So another way that you can identify a entity is when there's physical attacks, it always comes with sickness or in pain, and it becomes constant, and sometimes it moves. It can move from one person to another. It can, all of a sudden you've got a headache. If you're not a person that suffers from headaches, you're feeling ill, and then you're okay, and then the next person's feeling ill, and you're going to the doctors and you can't find what's going on. That is an entity of sickness or infirmity. Now, my go-to is, if you're feeling sick or you've got some illness, I would be dealing with this no matter what. Because again, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Disease is dis-ease. In other words, you are not living in rest. You're not living in ease of the Spirit of God. You are in distress. You are in anxiety. Fear comes on. Okay? And often what can happen is there's an agreement. The doctor turns around and says, oh, you've got this. And you go, oh, okay. You agree with it. So this is where, particularly if it continues to move, then you are dealing with a spirit of infirmity. Now, I'll share a story here about, and this is the entry point that came. when you're dealing with Ouija boards. Now, I went to America and there was a lady asked me to come with her to her friend's house because their daughter was very, very sick. And it had been going on for months, like 6 months, and it kept moving. So she'd been in and out of hospital. She'd had all the tests. They couldn't identify, they couldn't pinpoint what the situation was, but the daughter was really sick. And so I went to their house and I sat her down and I said to her, I'm going, okay, God, what's going on here? And he told me that she had played with a Ouija board. Now, these parents were very strong Christians. And I said to the daughter, I said, have you ever played with a Ouija board? And both the parents went, no. And I went, excuse me, I'm asking her. And the daughter just went. And I said, well, that's where this has come in. And we dealt with that entry point and she was completely healed. So this is where you ask the Spirit for wisdom. Every situation and circumstance is different. It's not cookie cutter stuff. It's always asking, how has this been allowed to come in? Where is the door where this entity has now got a right to come onto that person? So that's finding the root issue, and it's spiritual. Here's another really one. So what you do with that, you deal with it. You close the door to it so that that spirit can't stay there anymore. These are some of, I'm sharing with you some of the fruits to be aware of what's going on. If you have a pain in your body that's traveling around, you need to ask the Spirit why. Is it an assignment? Has it been assigned to you? Or have I dealt with, have I opened a door for it to come in? Now, I'll talk about assignment in a little bit because that's a different set of things that you're dealing with, okay? So here's another one for you, and that is money drain. Continually always getting unexpected bills, broke, struggling. Everybody's working hard, good money's coming in, but it's going out just as quick. And it's like frustrating because everyone's, this shouldn't be happening. It's like doesn't make sense. You are dealing with a demon of poverty. Now, remember, he has a devouring. Enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So a spirit of poverty is always one that steals. It's always taking something from you. So, and I'm touching on money here, guys, but it also can be stealing spiritual encounters as well. It's trying to keep you spiritually poor. So just going back to the money aspect, it's a demon of poverty that's attacking your finances. Now, what's really interesting with this entity is sometimes it's a generational thing. If not, most of the time it's a generational thing because it comes with a mindset that has been taught. It's a fear of not having enough is often operating generationally. It's, you've got to eat everything on your plate because you don't know if you're going to have a meal tomorrow. Now that really got escalated through the war. My parents were very, like, as long as we've got food in the fridge, we're okay. That was what made my mum happy. It's like, we've got a fridge full of food because they didn't have much through the war. They experienced terrible things during the war. Whether they were in the armies or, you know, civilians. They really did suffer. And that was a global effect. That opened up the doors spiritually, globally, because it affected millions upon millions of people. And then that gets put, you know, passed down. It's like you got to hang on to everything. I mean, it's like they find a nail. Oh, yeah, one day we might need that. I know that we're very much the other way now in society. It's like, oh, haven't used it in 2 weeks, we throw it out. So we've gone completely the other end of the pendulum. But as it can be a passed down generational spirit, that there's this lack. There's always this lack. There's always money struggles. There's always, you know, you're kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul and all that sort of thing. That needs to be broken. It needs to be identified and broken, that that's operating in your life. And you need to start calling in prosperity to counteract it. It's like, no, again, coming back to knowing who God is and the spiritual laws, is that there is abundance. God does not want you struggling or striving or broke. And please, I'm going to touch this. I'm going to bring this up right now too. If you are a person that's constantly tithing to churches that are teaching prosperity message, where they're going, you give to me and then God will give to you, stop it. It is the biggest hoodwink lie that has ever been spread on the planet. And again, that is a century-old entity that's running over the earth, simply because this is what the Catholic Church brought in. You know, you could pay for your sins. You could, and be forgiven. That was the whole foundation of the Catholic churches and a lot of religions, is that you can pay for, you know, doing the wrong thing. I mean, when you look at the history of the mafia, they were always connected to churches and they were big givers, because they were relying on the priest to pray for them so that they wouldn't kind of, you know, go to hell, I'll use the word. But they were still committing murder, adultery, and theft, right? It was like paying for your penance. And that is the biggest lie. There's only one way that you can kind of shift from going from wrong to right, and that is by just asking for forgiveness, acknowledging that you're making a mistake, and stop doing the same behavior, because otherwise that's not saying sorry, that's not apologizing. It doesn't work like that. It's saying sorry and being genuine about it and changing your behavior. So the other thing is, it can be, again, that it's a mental perspective. It's, you know, I'll always be poor. We'll always never have enough. We'll always, you know, live like this. We'll always be struggling. We can never get ahead. All these confessions then also give the enemy the right to keep you in that place. Remember, if you believe a lie, you end up living that lie. You start changing the conviction of your heart with what the truth is about how God sees you and how he wants to do things for you and help you, you'll start to see a shift. And often this spirit of poverty will also cause you to self-sabotage. It's a very interesting cycle in the sense that you will start being, right, we're having breakthrough, we're moving forward, and then it will come along. And I'm not just talking finances here, guys. I'm talking about, good relationships. I'm talking about your spiritual walk, your relationship with God. It will come in and take you out simply by self-sabotaging you, which is then goes back into, well, I don't deserve to have finances. I don't deserve to live a life that, is any different to the way I'm living right now. So these are the things to identify. Again, that is so important, having that communication. I want to touch on entities that are resident in a house, okay? So that, and here's some physical things that will, not only can you feel it, you're like, okay, something doesn't feel right here, but you will hear strange noises. You could hear footsteps, but nobody's there. You could have a sense of a shadow coming next to you, and it's like, oh, I thought someone was there, but they're not. Okay. Objects falling. Now I'm talking pretty full manifestations here. Doors opening and closing on their own. I've experienced that. Room feeling colder or like ice when you step into it. It can be just one room and you step into it. A sense of uneasiness or a sense of being terrified, like, get me out of here. These are entities that can reside in houses. That's why we know them as haunted houses. They're haunted because there is something there that is not human that is living in that house. And, it's funny, some people, there's some places that there's castles and things like that they do tours of being in haunted houses. And I just go, why would you want to go and play with that? But people seem to love it. But honestly, I do not feel for a minute that it would be very good for them, because guess what they're going to take home with them? They've just opened themselves up to an entity that will follow them home or attack their relationships. Like, it definitely, I just go, why would you want to do that? But people do, because it's a thrill. It's an adrenaline aspect to it. But you are opening yourself up to things that you do not want to be partnering with. Sometimes there's, and this is an interesting conversation because how do I explain this? We sometimes need to be aware that there are souls still attached to the earth that haven't yet passed over. And they are very real as well. So, and they can be attached to a house because of a trauma or because of something that has happened, like it's like unfinished business. And guys, this is, if you come across something like that, you just need to help it cross over. Ask them the question, like, why are you here? What's happened to you? And help them find the justice. Often it's linked to injustice, and they need to find justice to move on. And I won't get too much into that one, but it's still, I want you to be aware of it. Also, demons can identify, or demons can imitate a person that's passed. So again, there's discernment that's needed there, so you don't get hoodwinked. You don't get deceived, thinking that you're speaking to your mum when it's not. It's an entity pretending to be your mum. That's why I personally am very cautious of people that say they're channeling different, relatives and things like that. It doesn't work like that. What they're channeling is an entity that's pretending to deceive you, to open you up, and to be able to have influence on your life. Another type of entity that, or, energy to be aware of, which often it comes at the attack of children. And this will come through nightmares. They're scared, they won't sleep with the light off. And sometimes it's just a little growth pattern that they're going through. But normally that's because they're picking up on something that they're uncomfortable with. Don't dismiss that. Whether it's your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren, please use discernment to look into what's going on for them, because kids are way more sensitive to the spirit realm, particularly before the age of 8, and they tend to, react to certain things. My son was very much like this right from the age of 2. He would pick up on different people's entities and energies and react to it because he didn't know how to handle it. And a lot of adults don't even know how to handle it. It was very interesting. Incredible kid. I, just adore him. But, it was hard to navigate him through that. And actually through that, I had to learn a lot of things about the spirit realm very quickly to help protect him and realize what's going on for him, because people would deem him as, well, he's uncontrollable and he's, misbehaving, but he wasn't. He was actually picking up on what's going around him. And I had to learn very quickly what to see how he was seeing. So that really sharpened that gift that I did have, but I had to before he did, so I could then protect him and counteract it. And if I needed to get him out of that situation, I would get him out of that situation. That's my role as his mum, as his parent, to protect him. That's what I'm here for. And so that was very, very interesting learning. And I learnt a lot by having him as my son. And I'm very grateful for it. So don't dismiss what kids are saying. Don't dismiss what they're feeling, because that's often, don't be silly, you're just being silly. And no, the child is actually picking up something that needs to be listened to. Okay, don't squash that. Don't squash that gifting that they have in their life, the insight that they have in their life, because they need it. We all need it. So Monsters Inc., the movie, great example of how demons love to work. Everyone watches it as oh, wow, kids' entertainment, but they're actually telling us, yep, this is exactly how it works. That's what they do. So we need to be aware of that. All right, some of these things I've touched on, there can be a compounding factor. In other words, it can be like, oh yeah, we've, let a little bit of strife come in, but then a whole lot more comes in with it. And that's because we haven't dealt with it. We haven't nipped it in the, at the root issue. We're allowing that negative energy to increase because we're agreeing with it. We're partnering with it. We're allowing it to continue to operate. And this is particularly a spirit of strife is a really good example of this, because again, like I said, you start agreeing with some of the things it says, all of a sudden things start compounding, and what looked like a little anthill now becomes a mountain, because there's this compounding factor, and that spirit of strife will increase in its operation. It's not just a single word or a little nudge here. It now becomes this whole conversation of how bad that person is, or how you know, they're not good enough, or, and I'm talking particularly when it comes to relationships, guys. You know, it's always looking for the negative and feeding you that negativity so it brings destruction to that relationship. Now, this compounds particularly if you have a negative soul tie. A negative soul tie is a negative emotional connection. A spirit of strife loves to feed that because it will keep you locked down, and then it will escalate into it happens with everybody. Right? Instead of just an issue with one person, all of a sudden you've got an issue with another and another and another. And next minute you've got issues with everybody. And it's like, well, I'm right and they're all wrong. Well, no, you've got a spirit of strife that's operating here, and it's coming because you have unforgiveness. You haven't dealt with a negative soul tie. In other words, you're staying ticked off. You're staying angry. You're staying you know, in judgment. And this is really, and I feel that next week I really want to break that down more so that we grasp again how to quickly recognize a negative soul tie and deal with it. So the compounding factor is it's like one thing after another. It's like an offense after an offense after an offense, and it actually weighs you down. Now, this then can open the door for your spirit to live in poverty because you are weighed down with all this negativity. So now we've got another spirit entity trying to keep you down, keep you negative, keep you in poor health. This is how it compounds. So the more we increase the activity with the agreement with it is the compounding factor. And it opens up to more negative entities or influence over your life, okay? And that's why, and I'll give you an example when it comes to, well, this is the best example I could think of, was like if you are exposed to a little bit of pornography, the spirit will then push you to go to hard porn, which then another spirit comes in and it will start to bring depravity into your life. Then that depravity becomes exploitation because you're looking, that spirit's looking for someone to then exploit. And then it comes into deviation. So along that line, you have a spirit of lust coming in and it becomes depraved. And what happens is the different levels that you start out with might be really innocent at first, or it could be a little bit of curiosity, then becomes a whole, you know, a whole blown out expression of entities and demonic activity because it's searing your conscience at every level. It's numbing your consciousness. It's numbing your, you know, core values to then be its puppet on experiencing and, you know, being participating in really depraved and really quite sick things. But that's part of its plan. That's how it'll hook you. And then what comes with that is your attitude to either men or women starts to degrade. And then we have a breakdown of having respect for the opposite sex. And that's how that operates. So again, it's like, please be aware of the compounding factor. Look at your actions. Look at, your behavior or the things that are coming out of your mouth. And that compounding can come with how you speak to yourself, how you put, or it can be another thing, I've got to do everything for everybody else, detrimental to yourself and your family. That is a compounding factor where that entity will keep you in its grasp. And instead of doing the things that you were designed by God to do, you are doing what that entity wants you to do. And therefore, you've got to look at the root value there. Do I do it because I need to feel needed? Do I do it because I want to feel self-worth? Do I do it so someone will, thank me? Some people are addicted to that praise. They need praise to be validated, and that validation makes them feel like they have worth. Again, these are some entities that can jump on this to keep you on the treadmill of always doing what others want rather than doing what God's asking you to do or what's true to your heart. All right, so authorities has been given to us by God, and it is only effective when and if you use it. Luke 10:17-19, even the demons are subject to us. Behold, I've given you authority over all the power of the enemy. So guys, how do we deal with the influences of the entities, of devils, of negativity? The key is identify, 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 identify. 90% of the solution is identifying what the problem is, where it is, and why. Remember, I'm always going to ask God the questions, draw on wisdom to find the truth. Okay. If house cleaning, make sure your house is spiritually clean. If you've had someone come in your house and you feel like they left something behind in the energy realm, move it out. Don't just go, oh, that wasn't very nice. Yuck. Oh, I don't feel good here. Don't leave it there. It's like if you find a pile of dirt in the middle of your lounge room, you don't leave it there. You don't step over it. You sweep it up. You get rid of it. You take it out the door. You put it in the bin. These are the things that we do in the spirit. We sweep things out the door. Now, I realize some people need to do their saging because that's their connection with it. But guys, saging is not the authority that God gave you. Your voice and your conviction is the authority that God has given you. So speak to it and tell it to leave. Tell it to get out. I've even told things to get out and opened the door so it could get out. Right? I'll just go, right, you're out. Get out. You're not allowed to stay here. I'm not having it. Okay. I've had things that I've told in houses to get out, and they've opened the door and slammed the door behind them. I didn't open the door. The spirit did. The entity that I told to get out, because it was really annoyed with me because I was kicking it out, and he let me know by slamming the door. I just laughed. Okay. So these are some of the things that whatever you get led to do, then that's what you do. And don't think, oh, that's really weird. That's really random. Oh, if anyone saw me do that, they'd think I'm silly. Doesn't matter. The result is getting rid of that influence that is not good for you. So we command. This is where we command, guys. We're commanding. We're taking authority. And then we invite the presence of God to come and fill that space. Don't leave it vacant. Don't leave it, okay, well, I cleaned that out. Invite the presence of God. It's very hard for assignments to come at you when you stay in the presence of God. When you walk in that light and that love of God's incredible presence and you're really aware of it and you're emanating it, it's very hard for the enemy to come against that. He'll try, and he'll often try by using those that you love the most, the closest to you. But if you're quick to discern what's actually going on, you can nip it in the bud, and then you don't have to suffer the consequences of it. Maintain spiritual vigilance, right? Your home, your body, your being is yours. Don't surrender it to anyone else. Don't be disempowered by anything, but stay in power in God. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? No questions today, guys.
That was great, Dottie. No questions from me.
Wow, well, that's great. I must have explained it really well.
Yeah, no, you have. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
No, my pleasure. Very good. All right. Alexa, are you still here? No, she's not on. Oh, you are. Sorry, darling. I was just going to just share something quickly. When going back to the story about the fortune teller, now,
yes.
if something has happened like that, you have the authority to bind those words that have been spoken. You can bind the agreement that has been made, and you release the presence and the power of God into that situation, particularly if you have a child that's involved with it, because you want to protect her, because now she believes that, fortune tellers can tell you the future. Yes. Alexa, you have a question, darling?
Well, yeah, I was going to ask a question because I was late and I didn't know if you spoke about this, but yes, on this subject, yes.
Yes, I did.
But you just answered.
Yeah. So it's really important that, and to be honest, I really want to start teaching people how to discern how to pray, rather than just, oh, can you pray? Jenny and I were talking about this because she gets so many calls for people to pray for her. And I go, well, that's fine, but they're not learning to pray for themselves. They're not learning to discern and stand in their power and authority. And that's part of what needs to shift, because it's like, I'm happy for people to share, as Alexa did. She shared with me a situation, and I just sent her an email, go, this is how you pray. This is what you bind. This is what you loose. Now, I stood with her in that prayer, but I sent her this is what you do. Because honestly, guys, within, so quickly I can discern. I get shown. As soon as someone starts telling me something, I just see what's operating behind it. Okay. So the more of us that do that, and we see things even on the news, even what's happening in different countries, we're not getting sucked into what the media is telling us. We're looking what's going on behind it. And we can pray in accordance with God's heart and will for the globe, for that nation, for that city, for that town, for that family, for that person. We kind of got to get bigger in our, in our desire to make a difference. And it's not what religion has taught us, where it's standing in front of thousands of people, one person standing in front of thousands of people going, this is what you do, but give me your money. That is not how it works. It's all of us standing up in unity with God's heart, decreeing and declaring, proclaiming and commanding God's will on this earth. That's our job. Doesn't matter what situation you face, God is with you and can bring change. So that's what we can be doing.
Could I ask another question?
Yep.
Just with the spirit of strife and unforgiveness, if you have forgiven your ex-partner, but from time to time, and you think I've let it go, and from time to time still the negative thoughts come in, is it something that is just have to get, like it just exists, the spirit of strife exists, and you have to, from now and then?
Great question. Great question. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. So it is, if you've got an ex-partner, guys, the process of constantly having to deal with negative soul ties is there. It is just, you've just got to break those negative soul ties. Okay. And doesn't matter how many times you have to do it, because there's this incidents where you go, oh my gosh, they've done this again. Like, when are they going to stop doing that? And you've got to cut that negative soul tie, because it's really important that we stay free. We're responsible for us, and we stay free. So to me, and it's a bit like, a good example of this is when you hold unforgiveness, it's like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. We cannot stay in unforgiveness. If you have unforgiveness and you have health issues, the root issue will be the unforgiveness. And sometimes we are not aware that we have unforgiveness. I'll share a quick story. There was a situation, and my husband did something that really ticked me off. And what happened was, I went to get in the car and I slipped and I hurt myself because of something he did. And I got angry inwardly. I got angry. Now, for 12 months, I had a sore hip, and I didn't understand why I had a sore hip, because I, got past the whole situation. And then I did everything that I could. And I was like, I just sat down and went, God, what is wrong with my hip? And he said, you have unforgiveness. And it came in at that point when I slipped and I hurt myself, hurt my hip, because I had unforgiveness towards that situation. It stayed in my hip. The minute I forgave and released the anger, my hip was instantly healed. Alexa, can you put your mute on, darling, because we can hear whatever it is you're doing. Thank you. Was there any other questions there, Jenny? Did I miss anything?
I do not see any questions. Anybody else?
No, all good. All right, fantastic. Well, the hour is up, guys. Again, I open, Jenny and I open it up. If you have questions or you have subjects that you want to talk about, if you want me to go deeper in some of the things that I touched about, because it was only, I kind of talked about the main things that tend to try and operate in our life. Poverty is a big one. Strife is another really big one. Obviously, the haunted houses are not so much. But I think that we're going to get an influx of that simply because more and more people are opening up their homes to things that they should not be opening up their homes to. It can come through a TV show too, guys. Things that we watch. So we just need to be really vigilant. Doesn't mean you have to lock yourself away. That's not the answer either. But we just got to get more empowered, more discerning, and act on what the Spirit is telling us to do. All righty. Oh, Sandra, quick, last one.
Yeah, just quick. Just a question for next time. Actually, if you would speak on relationships, especially with children of Jenny, help me.
Children with relationships with their parents, and the children are they don't respect the parents, and they go off and do their thing. They have their own opinions, kind of bullheaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Estrangement. Yeah.
Estrangement. Yes, that's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, there's lots of that happening at the moment, isn't there?
It's been going on for a long time, it seems. And if you could touch on, maybe there is a family tie in there as well. Since my breakup with my husband, I've been paying attention to patterns.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for the talk
Yep.
tonight.
No, pleasure. All right. See, divorce really brings another whole element to it. So, and often it's different perspectives that husband and wives can have, or in relationships on it's a very interesting subject, and we can most certainly talk about that next week. All right, there we go. Next week's conversation, guys. All right, everyone have a great week. Love you lots. I hope you got a lot out of this today. Please tell me that you are utilizing the tools and the insight that we're bringing. That would just bless me more than anything else in the world. That it's helping you. That's the most important thing, is that we're all growing in this time of our life. We're not here by chance. We're not here by mistake. We are here for a purpose, for such a time as this. And, my heart would be absolutely to raise more and more people that stand in their truth and their power, and be able to speak to circumstances and situations and, bring change for the better for people's lives and our own lives, because we're counteracting what the enemy is doing to bring death and destruction to us. And it's not going to happen. We're on the winning side. We win this, and we can stand in complete conviction, regardless of what we see on television, regardless of what the media is telling us, regardless of what your neighbours says. We hold the faith, we hold the truth, and we win this because it's already won. We're just presenting the victory to this world that needs it. All right, beautiful people. I'll see you next week. Love you loads. Bye.
Thanks, Daddy.
Thanks.
Thanks.
It's awesome.
Thanks, everyone.
Love you.
Bye. Love
Bye-bye,
you.
Dottie. Thanks, eh?
I received the love.